Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Southwest Connections. I'm your host, Bill Malso, and welcome to our show. My guest this week is Jeet Sausen, Director of the Success Program here at SMSU. Welcome to the show, Jeet.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your personal background and what brought you here to Southwest.
Sure. So I'm a native of Richfield, Minnesota, and I went to Minnesota State Mankato. Did that many years ago. Old enough to be most of my students' parents at this point. After that, I worked in nonprofits in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And then I was doing some volunteer work at UW River Falls. And Paul Shepard, who now actually works at the MinnState office, was my grad advisor. And he said, "Oh, you're really good at this." Okay. So I had no intention of going back to get my master's, but I did. I went through Lacrosse's online program, got my master's in student affairs. And then I was whisked away out to Penn State for 7 years, and I did work in residence life and then conference services. So did that, and then it was time to come back here. Both my husband and I, our families are from here. He's from Buffalo, and we have one daughter. She's 4, and all of her cousins right now are on his side. And it was important for her to have that close relationship with her family, extended and, like our nuclear. So it was a tough choice, but we made the decision to come back here. And he works remotely for Kroger. So he was like, "You can go wherever." He's like, "But wherever we go, that's where we're staying." So I'm here. I didn't anticipate being in Marshall, Minnesota, but here I am, and I'm really happy to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk today about the Success Program.
Sure.
Success obviously is an outcome we're looking for, but tell us a little bit about what success and what that title actually means.
Sure. So the long title is Scaling Up Student Success for Collegiate Completion. And actually, I think I just spelled success wrong, but that's okay. That's why our students are in the program, right? To learn all of this stuff. So it's part of a national initiative put out by MDRC, which is a nonprofit located in New York City. And they do, they're nonpartisan and they're non-governmental, but they do a lot of research focused on completion and persistence of students. And it ranges from kindergarten through college. They focus a lot on students who come from marginalized communities or people who have had less advantageous backgrounds. And the Success Program is really focused on how do we work with students who are Pell Grant eligible, first gen, and this is the term that the program uses, students of color. So we're talking about anybody who, does not fully identify as a Caucasian person. And what can we do to help them get into college, integrate well, and really build those skill sets to graduate? Because we know as higher education professionals that college really is the ticket to the next stage and can help pull a family out of generations of struggles and help them to become more integrated and more successful and hopefully more wealthy over their lifetime. So that's really what we are doing, is trying to help students who come to SMSU that meet at least one of those criteria to really integrate, and at least if they don't complete their 4-year degree here, get them to the point where they can transfer to whether it's another MinnState sister school or maybe a completely different institution. They have those credits behind them and they can persist to graduation.
So this is a Minnesota State partnership this year that we're part of, and we're not the only university participating. Tell us a little bit more about the partnership and who else is in this pilot project.
Sure. So it's our institution, Bemidji State, Hennepin Tech, and Anoka Ramsey. And up until this point, MDRC had only partnered with 2-year community colleges. So our 4 schools in the MinnState system are the pilots within MinnState, but then our campus in Bemidji State are the first 4-year institutions that MDRC has worked with. So we're not only piloting for what we hope to expand here within the MinnState system, but also moving forward, when MDRC expands this program, they can see how does it impact students in a 4-year setting versus a 2-year setting.
So this isn't unique to Minnesota State. It's something that we've done before. It's been done before. How do you work together with some of these other institutions now, as you've you're about a half year into the program as well, so I know there hasn't been a lot of time, but how do you collaborate, and what are the benefits of that?
Sure. So prior to myself coming on board and the coach that I have that works with me, there was a team here. We called them our core team. So it was Dr. Ross Wasfet, Richard Shear, Dr. Lori Winia, and Brittany Kroll. So they're our core team, and they collaborated with the other 3 institutions to see, what are you doing? What does recruitment look like? What materials are you putting together? And then once each of our positions was hired at the other institutions, we started meeting every 3 weeks on Teams just to get to know each other and start sharing those ideas. So like one of the things we did was we crafted a recruitment flyer and we based ours off of what Hennepin Tech did. On our campus, the coach that I work with, she's crafting all of our recruitment messaging that we're sending out. And so we've shared those templates with the other institutions so they can utilize those. So really it's not just sharing about what we're doing, but also making sure that in general we're staying true to what the grant was expected to do and, helping to support each other with whatever comes up on our plates.
So you talk about recruitment. Tell us a little bit of how you go about identifying students to be a part of the program.
So this first year, it's been challenging, but it's been challenging because, Nicole and I, so the coach that I have, we only started at the beginning of August. So Brittany worked with a lot of the students in the admissions office this past summer to do a lot of cold calling and emailing and really, just hitting the boots on the ground and really trying to get the students engaged. What we're doing this time around, now that we actually have some time with it, is we're doing intentional emails to students that we know are admitted and that will be coming here, would qualify for a program, because there's no loss for them, right? All they have to do is meet with us 2 times a month for 30 minutes each, be full-time, and be making forward progress towards graduation. As long as they do that, they earn a monthly financial incentive. So when you put it in perspective for a student, you say you meet with me, 1 hour a month and you get $50. It's not a bad deal. So we're starting those communication paths now. We also have put out a faculty referral form. So that way, if faculty see students in the program or students in their classes that they think would qualify, they don't need to necessarily know which one of the qualifiers they meet. But if they see a student they think would benefit from it, they can refer them to us. We'll do the outreach to the student and see what we can do to help them.
So how many students do you have in the program this year?
So we had a high of right around 100, but then after semester end, we had students transfer out. So we're down to about 80, and that's not bad for our first year. And this year, all the students are first-year students, but we're hoping to expand and bring in some second and third-year students next year.
So, Jeet, I know you certainly can't do this by yourself, and you mentioned Nicole a little bit and some of the others. Tell us a little bit about your team that you have that work here as part of the Success Program.
Sure. So Nicole Schwing, she's a 2017 alumna of SMSU, and she and I were hired independent of each other. So she was actually hired before me. We started at the same time, but we didn't know each other going into this. And then Brittany and Lori and Ross and Rich have all been really instrumental in, having them around to bounce ideas off of and give some context, some history about what's important to the institution, what's important to the president. And then really it's been, just pounding the pavement and meeting people in different offices that interface with our students and, letting them know, here's what we can do. So if you have an idea or if you have a student you think would benefit, send them our way, because even if we can't help them, our office is part of the Deann Griebel Student Success Center, and that's the hub on this campus for really making sure our students have what they need. So we have our colleagues in the office that can also provide that direction and support for them.
So you led me right into my next question, and that's perfect. And being a part of the Deann Griebel Student Success Center is a huge asset. And so tell us a little bit about more of some of the services and programs that are there for students that you can kind of entice them to, take part in or, help them along the way with.
Sure. So we sell our office as really being like I said, the hub for student success. So if a student is interested in tutoring, we don't necessarily provide the tutors for all the services, but we can connect students to the faculty that are leading up the tutoring. We do offer some tutoring services, but not enough for, all the different programs here on campus. Our office also coordinates the tutor.com partnership. So a lot of students don't know it, but they get 15 hours of free online tutoring. And I was a 2005 Mankato graduate, and I can say that I had one online class. It was for half a semester. Tutor.com did not exist at that time. So I look at this and go, that's amazing. That's awesome. Our office is also open the center is open until 8 p.m. So even when we're not there, Students have access to different desktop computers, and then the Math Tutoring Center is physically based there, and there are tutors there usually until 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. A lot of the students who come to our program area are in the School of Education, and so the School of Education has a lot of materials there that students can use free of charge. There's a lot of great collaboration spaces in there as well, so it wouldn't be uncommon for us to see, walk out of our office around lunchtime and see, a bunch of athletes together for study tables, and then you look on the other side and you see different pockets of students doing study groups. So it's both a space that students can gather in, but we also are there as resources. And then we do have a bunch of brochures and pamphlets as well. So if students just want, not necessarily the people interaction, but they're looking for information like how to study better, how to balance, school and, your life outside of it, we've got different sheets that people can grab and, read or put back. And we just try to be a space that can help our students.
So hopefully you have a number of students that stick with you for a rather extended period of time. And
Right.
is this something you see students sticking with you now that you have freshmen? Will they hopefully stick with you for the full 4 years? Or is this something that they'll kind of graduate technically out of? And then how do you work with their academic advisors too?
Sure. So we've already started those conversations with the students because, we want to retain them. We want them to be involved in the program. Just because this is their first year, that doesn't mean that the eligibility criteria that they met initially is going to go away. And so I've always been telling mine, unless you tell me you're not coming back, you're coming back, right? And they're like, well, yeah. Like it's the easiest money and the least stressful of my commitments. So yes, of course. So because MDRC hasn't had, a presence at a four-year institution before, once we get to the point where these students are third years or juniors, it's, whatever we want to do. It'll be really cool to see that.
Territory, isn't it?
Yeah. And even that's one of the things that I really do like about the flexibility we have with this is MDRC has, they have a program guide that says, here's what we would suggest in your first year and in the second year, and they break it down by semesters even. But, our needs are different than what's at a two-year institution. And even in talking with Bemidji's coordinator, our students have some varying needs as well based on, where they're coming from or geographically where our campuses are located. And so we have the flexibility to build the curriculum the way that we want it to. And to tie in with the academic advisors, we're not formally listed as academic advisors, but we do try to follow the schedule. So like now with academic advising coming up in the middle of March, it happens to be the week after spring break, we're starting to remind our students, okay, the course listings for fall should be posted either today or tomorrow. So make sure you're going online. Make sure you're looking at that. Go back and take a look at your Mustang academic plan. And, if it makes sense, great. And if not, that's okay. Like, let's talk about some ways to have those conversations with your advisors because, yes, we're helping students learn those skills they need to be successful in the classroom, but they don't realize because they don't have the life experience that those skills actually translate after that. So it's also, how do you do that self-advocacy? How do you communicate? How do you, when you hear something you don't like, how do you go back and say, well, actually, this is what I was really thinking? And so that's been a really cool thing that both Nicole and I have seen with our students grow into their voice and become way more comfortable now than they would have been back in September and October when they were first starting and really trying to, to figure out what they're doing and what they want to be here.
So prior to your time here at Southwest, obviously you were at Mankato, so you have some familiarity. But then you went off to an institution like Penn State, obviously a much different type of institution.
Yeah.
What experiences did you gather there that you found you'd be able to bring back and relate to our SMSU students and some of the things that they're facing?
So a few things, Penn State, the comparable institution here would be the University of Minnesota. I knew that I didn't want to go to an institution of that size for my undergraduate. My mom tried, and I was like, nope, I can't do it. So I feel really fortunate that I got to work in an environment like that because the school spirit there is, the school spirit here. In residence life, you have to be a jack of all trades. You have to know about a lot of things going on campus. And as somebody who's new here, that's really helped me to be aware of, okay, here's the resources that we should have available. So even though I don't know what those are, I can ask. I know what questions to ask. Being in conference services, I had a really good idea of, what housing should provide, what kind of, support services can our foods people support. And then the last 2 years I was at Penn State, I was actually at one of our Commonwealth campuses. So similar in geographic size, but actually a smaller population like what SMSU has, about 3,000 to 4,000 students. And most of them were commuters. And so I really got to understand what does it mean to, not just have a lot of responsibilities, but also, really be integrated into what the students are doing. And again, I think that institutional knowledge and understanding what a university is trying to do and the resources it has really helped here. And I don't want to say that it gave me more credibility, but I think coming from a large institution like that and having to navigate that successfully, it really builds you up to you being able to navigate a program and, take charge and lead right away from the get-go. And I think that's part of the reason we have been successful is, to their credit, the university administration has really trusted what Nicole and I are doing. And Brittany's been great to have to bounce ideas off of, but she's like, nope, if you trust this, if this is what you want to do, then go for it. And, that can't be understated. That's really critical to what we're doing. And it's nice to know that we have the confidence of the university to do what we need to do in order to do the program well.
So one of our key priorities, obviously, is retention, and,
Yes.
and what you're doing is, hopefully, is a critical part of that. You're working specifically with some students, and you're trying to make them successful. But how can what you're doing help other students, hopefully, have a good experience and we retain them and ultimately graduate too?
Yeah, I hope that students who aren't in our program but are friends with these students will see. Here's somebody else who I can study with. Here's somebody else who, has an ally on campus. One of the really neat things that has happened with the students I supervise or, coach, that's what we are. We're success coaches, is I've had friends of students in the program starting to come and talk to me and, tell me what's going on and look for guidance. And, did I anticipate it happening this early in the program? No, but that's what's happened. And that happened to me at Penn State, regardless of what role I was in. And I fully expect for Nicole, as she becomes more confident and, continues to build those relationships, that she'll start to see that too. And, I hope if it reaches a student who does qualify for our program, but maybe we missed, that they say, hey, I want to be a part of that. I want to be engaged. I want opportunities like this for me, and, reach out and let's figure out how we can make that work.
This question really kind of gives it right back to you. But at the end of the day, how do we, know that the success program has been a success?
Well, so the data number-driven person in me would say you need to look at our numbers, because we retained 80% of our fall cohort to the spring, which I think is good. The president really likes that, which is great. We get shout outs from him in every town hall, and it's kind of nerve-wracking because it's like, okay, is he going to ask us to speak about this? Like, what's going on? Like, it's great to know that we've set the bar that high. Now we have to maintain it. But I think the testament is really the relationships that we've built. The students, they can come in and talk to us. They don't have to wait for their meetings. They can come in as much, or, they have to meet with us twice a month, but if they want to come in more, they can do that. If they want to email us or hit us up on Teams, they can do that. And I think my hope is that moving into this next year, we're going to have some students who are still in the program but can act as ambassadors. Within athletics, we've got a fair number of students who qualified that are in our program, and hopefully they can talk to, students who they're recruiting or students who are admitted and have, decided, hey, I'm going to come here and be an athlete on X team. They can talk to them and be like, no, you really want to do this. Like, yeah, the money's great, and no, it's not hard, but you've got another person who cares. You've got another person who wants you to do your best. And, when you have that bad day, you can go and talk to them. Or like when you get a C on your test and you worked so hard for that C, yeah, that may not be the best grade, but dang, you worked hard and you want to tell somebody about it. Like, that's what we're here for. And those are the things that we're starting to see with our students. And like, that for me is a hallmark of success. It's not just the quantitative data, it's the qualitative data. It's that relationship piece, because we know that, if students leave, they're not necessarily leaving just because we don't have the program they want. We know that they might be leaving because they didn't feel a connection here. And this is a way for a student to feel connected that maybe wouldn't.
Jeet, if students, prospective students or current students for that matter, or their families want to get in touch with you to learn more about the program, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
There's so many ways. I would say the best way would be if you go to SMSU's homepage, and in the top right-hand corner, you've got the search bar, just type in Success Program, because it'll bypass the different ways that you can get to us, and you won't have to dig. You can just go right there. Otherwise, if you shoot an email to success@smsu.edu, that's our office general inbox, and we have access to that 24/7, so we can definitely get in touch with people right away.
So one last question for you, Jeet.
Sure.
If you could tell a prospective student and their family why SMSU is the best place for them, what would it be?
Ooh. I would say it's the relationships. I would say you get a really good quality public education with the feel of a private institution, and you're not going to get that everywhere. And if building relationships and really being able to get in the weeds and get noticed and get those connections is important to you, then this is a good place to look at. It should be probably on the top of your list.
Thank you, Jeet.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again for joining us for this week's edition of Southwest Connections. Be sure to follow us online and on our social media channels to find out what's going on campus throughout the next couple of weeks. Again, it's a busy time of year, and we encourage you to check out what's happening here at SMSU. Once again, thank you to my guest, Jeet Sausen. Please join us again in 2 weeks when Dr. Kandy Noles Stevens joins us here on Southwest Connections. Thanks for watching.